Cheers.
Welcome, everyone, to another Tabby Hour podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Cheers.
Today we have Shain.
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 What's going on, Shain? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Glad to be here.
Go ahead and give us give the listeners, because most people listen, a 2-minute. Who are you? Where are you from? And how did you end up here?
So I'm from Greenville originally. Went to school in Knoxville, Tennessee. Am I good?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
You want to be? Yeah.
You gotta talk.
You're touching me already. You're touching me already. I like it. Grew up in Greenville. Went to school in Knoxville. My wife and I moved to Boston in 2008, and we were there for about 15 years. And we moved back in March of 21. Started working on Judson Mill, mill down the street. That's how I know Cuzzin. Helped him out with the brewery. I would assume you'd say help too, maybe.
Yeah, it definitely helped. I mean, it helped me enough that I introduced you into the Brewers Guild, so you can continue to help other people in our same situation.
Absolutely. So we've been back a little over 2 years, and it's been great. Rekindled with friends, and I've got in-laws here. My family's down the street.
How long were you gone for?
14 years.
Okay. So growing up here, the difference of coming back.
Greenville is a completely different city from when I left. Left in 2003, went to school at UT in Knoxville, Tennessee.
How's that? Knoxville's a cool city.
Knoxville's a cool city. Football town, right?
Yeah.
Obsessed with college football growing up. Both my parents went to UT. A lot of family from East Tennessee.
Fraternity? You in a fraternity?
I was a fraternity guy.
Yeah,
I was.
Were you like what do they call it when your dad or someone goes?
A legacy.
Yeah, were you?
I was a legacy.
Oh.
I feel like the only way I could get into a
You're
fraternity.
2 for 2 today.
Yeah, perfect.
Just nail on the head.
I don't know the words, but I just
What's fraternity?
I was a Fiji.
A Fiji. I've never heard of that one.
Phi Gamma Delta was the Greek letters or whatever. But I was
because I was going to say I always hear them referred to as MAGA Alpha. Mega, whatever.
Exactly. But I was a legacy, so the only way I could get in is if my dad was a
tons of hazing.
If I didn't just make it perfectly clear there in that sentence, I was not in a fraternity.
We started our own.
I'm not sure I could get into your fraternity.
No, you could.
I could.
Everyone's in. You bring beer, you're in.
So the entry fee is just beer.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So you don't have to brew beer to be in yours.
No.
You just have to.
Yeah, it was like back in the day. We just lived in a big house, and it was just like, okay.
Just show up with beer.
Yeah.
I went to school in Knoxville, was in a fraternity. Yeah. And came back.
What did you study in college?
Studied business and communications because my roommate was a communications major, and we used to ride to Circle Park, which is where our classes were on campus together. And he had a parking pass, and I didn't. I was like, Brian, I'll just ride with you. And I was like, I'll just do the same major because it's convenient, and you park outside the building, and I don't have to walk anywhere. So
what do you do now?
I work in commercial real estate development.
Okay.
Work for a couple different developers in Boston, one based in Atlanta, the other shopping center developer based in Chestnut Hill, which is around the corner from BC. Moved back to Greenville a couple years ago to work on the Judson Mill project, which is 5 minutes from here. And again,
that project was what moved you here.
Yeah. So I came back in March of 21 and worked for the developer. And it was still, when I showed up at Judson in March of 21, the residential lofts had not started leasing yet. It was probably 50% complete construction-wise. So I handle the construction, all the development, and by development, I mean entitlements or permissions from the municipality to do development, permitting to get building permits, and all the construction, the architecture.
So I'm an investment group.
Yep.
Hypothetically, I come to your firm and say, I want to invest. I'm going to buy this building, this mill.
Yep.
I want to turn it kind of into a thing, and you guys take it and coordinate it. I mean, you like get the renovation done. You find the people to lease.
Yeah, so it depends on the ownership structure, but at Judson, there's a couple different developers, one of which I was kind of attached at the hip with for a few years, who's done a lot of mills, and we worked together for almost 2.5 years on the residential piece and the first 2 commercial buildings, and the residential management group had already been hired when I started. But yeah, they would hire me to help kind of shepherd the project, kind of be the boots on the ground, coordinating with the contractor on a daily basis.
Because you've done like everything at Judson. I've seen you there throughout the entire process and bouncing around doing 100 different things,
yes.
Managing 100 different things.
Yeah. So when I started, it was just me on the ground, working with the developers who were from out of town. But yeah, it was a lot of just me for a long time.
Yeah.
Staying busy.
You got to wear a lot of hats, I think. Like, hey, Lee, where's my floors at? Hey, Lee, where are the lights? Hey, Lee, where's the carpentry? So he was all the time in with the GC, knowing what's going on, walking the property. If I couldn't make it out there, I could call Lee. He could give me a minute update. He was like, I was there 2 seconds ago. Here's what's going on.
So is this the kind of thing that the next project's going to require you to move, or are there other projects in Greenville that you'll attach to for a couple years?
So we're chasing a couple mills, and I work for a local third-party real estate services provider.
So you're here now. You're not.
I'm here. Yep. My office is on Main Street.
Just moved, right? New house.
Yeah, just moved. Bought a new house around the corner from my old one. So
that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, I would say it was easy for me, but God bless my wife. She's 100% of the effort behind the move, right? She's organizing, she's making sure the kids have what they need. So when they show back up from a day of school or grandparent camp, everything is the same, just in a new house. So it's been good to have her kind of leading the charge. But yeah, office on Main Street. Again, say you're an investor, you buy a mill and you have no idea what to do with it. You'd call our firm and say, hey, we've got this mill, I've got all this money or access to capital. We want to try to figure out the highest and best use, and we kind of guide you through that process for a fee, obviously. And
you guys can go all the way from concept to actual property management too.
Yeah. So you could call me and say, hey, I've got this idea I'm going to buy this mill in Waynesville, North Carolina. Don't know anything about the market. Don't know anything about tax credits. Don't know anything about local municipality incentives. Help us. Okay, great. We'll agree to a fee. And we'll be in Waynesville talking to county councilors, to anybody on the local jurisdiction front, trying to figure out, are there incentives available? What needs to happen? Are you coordinating with the DOT? Are there utilities there? Like all these little things that kind of add up to a pretty big sum when you're developing or redeveloping these projects. So,
and at that point, you haven't even started construction on the project.
No, that's kind of the entitlement.
That's a year ahead of time.
That's 2 years ahead of time, maybe 3, depending on the complexity of the project. And a lot of these mills, a lot of these developers will tell you that the dirt is dirty, right? So all these mills in the 30s and 40s, the way they would dispose of chemicals doesn't meet all these standards these days.
Dump it down the Reedy River.
Exactly. And now you have to do, you have to have a kind of a plan of action for all this dirty dirt. You can't just take the dirt and dump it somewhere. You've got to take it to a landfill where it's.
And you can't leave it there.
You can leave it on campus, but at some point you're going to move enough dirt where it makes sense. You got to move it because you got to build, right? So the dirt.
I never thought about that.
Yeah. So part of your budgeting is really understanding tipping fees. And there's a local dump in Greenville, in Anderson actually, where you take all this soil.
What do they do with that soil? Do they clean it? Do they like incinerate it?
They clean it, and I've never really asked questions about what that means.
Yeah.
But
You're just glad to get it done. Like
they have a license to clean it, and you drop it off there, or you hire someone to do it, and it's just done. So
that's
very
fascinating.
interesting.
Yeah, it's a crazy the mill redevelopment niche in Greenville has been, I would say, robust in the past 6 to maybe 8 years.
So we're at Brandon Mill.
Yep.
You're at Judson.
Judson.
There's Woodside. Those are the only 3 I can think of. What else is there?
So there's
sorry.
No.
Hampton Station wasn't that a mill?
Hampton Station was Mill-esque.
That's in Greer.
That's it. No, that's off of
It's right here, West Greenville.
Cedar Lane
too.
Road near the Swamp Rabbit Grocery. You've got the Greer Mill in Greer. Surprise, surprise. Silos. You've got the Alice Mill, which is down the street from Silos, maybe 4 or 5 miles.
And these have all been developed.
The Alice Mill, a project I work on, has not been developed, but going through the process of budgeting with contractors and understanding highest and best use. So it's more than likely going to be commercial and residential.
Kind of like Judson.
Kind of like Judson, but it's interesting. It's on the Doodle Trail, which is a smaller version of the Swamp Rabbit in Easley, and a really cool spot. You've got a friend from.
I live in Easley. I need to come out. I'll meet you there one day.
Yeah, I would love to walk you around. And it's interesting. The mill owners, when they sell off to developers, have taken really good care of the real estate. So you walk in and it's not dilapidated. There's no roof leaks. Concrete floors, wood floors are in great shape. So you've really got a solid blank canvas to work from. So it makes my job easier because you've got this easy starting point. I shouldn't say easy, but it's not. You're not going in replacing rotting things, and it's a structural issue. Everything's rock solid.
Yeah.
But so as easy it seems mills would be, you would think, to develop, come in, it's a blank canvas. They're actually a lot more difficult if you think about like having to move the dirt and dealing with historic society stuff.
Yeah. So if there are tax credits involved in these mills, which make developing these mills super accretive, right? You can get a certain percentage back of every dollar you spend from the state and federal government from a tax credit perspective. But you've got to have somebody qualified on your team that can navigate you through that process. I'm not that guy. But I would say one of my skill sets is knowing what I don't know so I can connect dots and try to put people in touch with subject matter experts in that regard.
And whose responsibility is to know what you can and can't cut, break in these historic buildings?
I'd say you get someone who's developed a few mills, who knows high level.
But it's ultimately you, right?
SHPO, the South Carolina Historic Preservation Office, is a kind of a governing entity that really dictates what you can and can't do. And ultimately, you're getting approval from SHPO and the National Park Service in Washington, D.C. about how you redevelop these projects in terms of fenestrations, meaning storefronts and windows. They're picky. They want to know, are you going to be able to see air conditioning units that are mounted on the roof from the parking lot? So you have to be very strategic about how you place things on the roof, windows, new openings, existing openings. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I'm glad that they're doing that with these old buildings. There's so many cool, historic. There's not two of any of them.
Well,
They're all
what's interesting
character.
about Greenville is I think Greenville used to be the textile capital of the world, like 100 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, I think
I
that
don't
was
think
like
I knew
that was like a real thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's a museum downtown that's just all about textiles. I mean, you had Rich Loom had big offices here who are based out of New York. I mean, you had furniture makers in High Point that would come down here and buy fabrics. I mean, Milliken
still in Spartanburg. I mean, they're publicly traded company.
There's still one in Pendleton that are huge. There's one in Gaffney. Like, I think there's one in Blacksburg.
Yeah,
Milliken's still huge, and this was a Milliken mill. Judson Mill was a Milliken mill.
Yep.
That opened in 1912. I think we talked about this and operated into the 90s.
I want to say it operated until like maybe late 90s, early 2000s, and it's been. I think there's over 20 mills in Greenville or the upstate that have been either redeveloped or in the process of going through redevelopment.
So how many are out there not touched, untapped?
I want to say 4 or 5 maybe are out there. There's one, the Conisty Mill, I think, is a super fun site, meaning the environmental complications are super complicated. But there are a few out there. There's one in StarTech, South Carolina, which is the suburb of Spartanburg.
Yes, actually, my brewer Mimi, she lives in StarTech, near that StarTech neighborhood.
It's a cool.
It's a very cool.
What's interesting about the mills is that the owners of the mills would build and develop all these houses around the mill, so their employees could live within walking distance. So if you're paying a low wage, you don't have to worry about your employees not being able to get to work because they just walk a block or walk 2 blocks. Which is good for the employer, probably not great for the employee.
It was a different time.
And I'd say like Duneen Mill, like right here too, like connecting really Brandon and Judd, like that neighborhood. It's a very well kept mill hill. You go into some mill hills and they're a shithole.
They're a shithole. And what's interesting about the Duneen Mill is active. It's still a mill. It just traded in the last 2 years, meaning I think a group in LA bought it for 7 figures. And I get my haircut across the street from the Duneen Mill, at the Duneen Barbershop. And
that guy's in there at like 6:30 I see him every morning.
It's $11. It's been $11 for 25 years. And they have originally they opened in the 50s. They cut hair. You could shine your shoes there or get your shoes shined. You could also take a shower after your workday. go in there and get cleaned up, to have dinner with your family or whatever. So you could go pay $1 for a haircut, a nickel for a shoe shine.
That's one of the most annoying
25
things
cents for a
about getting, you go get your hair and beard trimmed, you have to go home and shower.
You have to. Even if you get a hair wash after.
Yeah. I'm an animal. I'm going right out. It don't bother me.
It doesn't itch and gets in your eyes.
6 beers, you don't even notice it.
It's not an issue for you.
So are there, these 4 or 5 sort of mystical unicorns that are out there that, because there's a ton of money in this.
Yep.
It costs hundreds of millions of dollars to renovate one of these things, I'm sure.
Yeah, depending on the mill for sure.
But the return over the next 10 years is huge because, especially in Greenville, if you do it right, I spend every day here.
Yep.
And the amount of turnover in this place is low.
Right.
Like once you live here, people are like,
I think the interesting thing about the mills, depending on the developer and their capital structure, is you need to develop the residential piece first, right? Because that's the residential is in demand in Greenville. There's a lot of need for affordable housing, workforce housing, and market rate housing. And every time you build a project, a mill-related project, people flock to it. They love the product. They love the exposed brick, the high ceilings, the wood floors, the concrete floors. We walked through the amenity area earlier. You've got these cool old open ceiling areas. They turned it into a gym. They turned it into a steam room or a co-working space. People love this raw, authentic product that's not, you could pick it up and put it in some suburb somewhere and you could be anywhere. This is
well said.
These
organic
are,
to Greenville.
If you look at the ceiling, they're like hand cut. They're maybe not hand cut, but they're raw. It's raw wood. Right?
It's 100 years old. And what's interesting about these mills is they're built to last, right? Like these mills, whether they're redeveloped or not, are in great shape because the guys and girls that build them were true tradespeople, craftsmen that cared a lot about what they do and how they did it and the products they used. And I could probably tell you where they got the nails, where they got the hammer, where they got the wood.
We're on the 4th floor here.
Yep.
And there was a pretty bad storm that came through the other day, really windy, and I was just kind of laughing like, this thing's been here 120 years. Like the only thing I have to worry about is if there's a tornado hits the ground, the glass is going to break.
Yeah,
but everything else is fine.
But surprise, surprise, the glass is probably the newest thing in the apartment, right?
Yeah.
Because it's all new windows.
Yeah.
But yeah, these mills are literally built to last, so they're not going anywhere.
It's really cool.
The only thing I wish that was different in the mills that I miss, because you had mentioned you lived in Boston. I'm from up that way. I think we've talked about that. Because up there was like true lofts.
Yep.
And really, like they call all these apartments lofts but none of them are lofted.
Right.
Like that there's something to be said to have that, just that bedroom that's up top.
They have
lofted.
a couple of them here.
Do they?
They have
a couple of Judson too.
Yeah, I
like
think
the
they
bigger,
have like 14, 13 lofts where like you walk in and you go up a set of stairs and there's either
open landing.
Some of them have restrooms. Most of them have closets. And I think a lot of people sleep up there and turn the bedroom downstairs into an office or a little gym or something. But
I think that's been the shift in residential areas of these projects over the last 10 years. Is more and more people are working remotely.
Yep.
So they're spending more and more time at home. And so if you rent an apartment here, you don't have to sit in your apartment all day. You can go downstairs, you can work out, hit the steam room,
right.
Go around the corner to downtown and have a coffee and a breakfast. Come back, you can work by the pool.
Right.
You can work in the co-working space.
People that work from home don't work from home. They don't want to work from it. They want to be, if they live in an apartment community, whether it's a loft product or ground up construction, they want to be able to take a shower, grab a cup of coffee, and go somewhere.
Yeah.
And if it's in their building, great. If it's at an office, great too. But they like to be able to like have a routine and go. And at Judson, we had some co-working spaces that were first come, first serve, and people love them. Every single day you go down there and there's people, they bring their monitors.
They're bringing whole setup, speakers, monitor, like it's like bring a tote and a wagon.
And a wagon, exactly. And they come down and they set up for the day and they're
2 plugs, plug in, hook your laptop in and go.
Yeah, it's easy. So
there's guys out there with like 30-inch TVs that they're bringing with them.
The graphic designers and doing their thing, and they like to be in the building, but don't like to be in their apartment.
Yeah,
to work.
I would have to be the same way if I worked from home. Having an office at the house wouldn't cut it because I want to get nothing done.
That's why I have this place.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got to get out the house.
Yeah.
You got to have that sense.
Working from home, you've got to be disciplined to really kind of
Yeah.
be in the
And I don't
zone.
need a shower in a gym, like whatever. You know, I just go to work.
Oh, I obviously don't need a shower or a gym, but
You got to, man. You got to make time for it.
yeah,
You
I'll
have
take a shower every once in a while.
Yeah, once a week. Something like that.
Not the gym. Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
my speed.
yeah.
Not my speed.
Well, I renamed my bathroom gym. So I go to the gym every morning for sure.
I like that. That poor Jim. Poor Jim.
So what? So you've got. You said it's the Alice,
The Alice Mill in Easley.
and that's your kind of your next.
That's the next mill project I'm working on. I've got potentially the Greer Mill in Greer.
Can you do like 2 of these mill projects at the same time?
Probably have to hire somebody.
Like
You looking for a job?
No, I mean just it's got to be a lot of work, right? Like,
Yeah. So it I
probably
would say
too much to manage.
Yeah. So I think you get to that point where you take on enough work where you're like, okay, the fees are enough to really hire somebody. So we'd go out in the market and try to find somebody else. I'm not sure if there's anybody else in Greenville that does.
Can you get yourself cloned? Is that what you're really looking
Yeah.
at?
So I've been talking to a couple doctors in town that can do some cloning. So that should be.
What you got, cousin? Is it a good one? Yeah, he has to answer the phone on the podcast.
No, I don't. That one's getting ignored.
Okay. Some of them are fun to watch.
Yeah, that might be a yelling at somebody.
Oh.
Is that a brewery related question or a
No,
marriage
no,
related
no.
question?
We're just definitely. She already talked to her. She's downtown right now at City Hall. I should have said you instead.
What's she doing?
Getting her business license for her new barbershop that your office helped her procure. So that's another thing, Avis and Young. I don't know if we threw that out there.
We didn't.
Is that okay that I threw it out there?
It is now.
Perfect. So
It is now.
the company that Lee works for has also helped my wife get her barbershop
nice.
and negotiate that. So they really are a well-rounded team out there.
Yeah, we've got a good crew. We were small. We're probably 15 people on Main Street, but we've got a good finger on the pulse in terms of users like Cuzzin who are young and hungry to kind of make a difference and kind of make their impact on the niche they're in, right? The brewery world, the retail world, the office world, and we've got retail brokers to help folks like Cuzzin. We've got people like me to help them get from a signed lease to a set of drawings to a building permit to ultimately an operating business. So that's what we do.
So I've got a question about these mills. You know, these buildings are 120 years old.
Yep.
Many of them have been sitting for years, decades, in some cases empty, correct?
Yeah, for the most part.
What's the weirdest thing you've found slash
I
any
gotta go.
ghost stories? Any ghost stories of these? Like,
I'm not going to tell you the mill because I don't want to freak out people that may live at one of the mills I've worked on.
Got it.
One of the mills down the street. That's vague enough.
Yeah.
When I started working on it, I would get there early, like 6:30 in the morning, and there would be some screaming and yelling happening from the basement of one of the abandoned parts of the mill. And I'd go down there with the general contractor and figure out what's going on with
you would both hear it.
We'd both hear it, and it was like multiple people screaming. And
I just got goosebumps.
Yeah.
I'm out. I'd be running out of that
in the
building.
basement of one of these.
I'm so glad to know that you've never worked on this building.
Yeah, I did not work on this building, but
I'm sure similar things have happened here.
Yeah, I went in the basement of one of these mills, and there's folks down there in conflict with their fists, trying to figure out differences at 6:30 in the morning.
But you go down there and there's nobody there.
There's nobody there.
Yeah.
I don't know if they hear their footsteps and they run off, or it. I don't know.
How many times did you hear this?
2 or 3 times, and I've got some folks from different general contracting firms that could probably be like, "Yeah, absolutely, that's how it happens."
Okay, so there's a ghost there.
I wouldn't say there's a ghost, but there's people hiding in corners where you can't find them, and you're like,
Well, I mean,
but you're not sticking around to
how
find
big
out.
are most mills, right? You know, a couple 100,000 square foot.
Not a couple hundred. I mean, it depends on the mill. I mean, Judson is 900,000 square feet on 40 acres. I mean, it's a lot of space, right? So somebody could, and there's entryways and exits all over the place. So
I mean, yeah, the cool thing there is like all they left a lot of the doors, and there's like, oh, there used to be a hallway there that's not there anymore.
But you could slide behind the door and shut the door, and you think there's a hallway and there's not. And somebody,
Yeah, but nobody's out here playing patty cakes at 6:30 in the morning.
correct.
We normal people are not.
Correct.
I mean, maybe in San Francisco where there's night walkers and zombies.
maybe some of cousins from New Hampshire.
How did you? So I want to. This is a random question to you. How did you get the name Cousin?
Are you looking at me?
From? Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if you changed your name
Where
to Cousin.
where did Cousin come from?
I'm not man enough for a
I
cousin.
think you and I've talked about it. We've never talked about it on the podcast.
No, I think we have. But so when I moved down here from New Hampshire in 2009, the only people I knew down here were my cousins. So they like introduced me
As Cousin.
to everyone as, hey, this is my cousin Adam. And my nickname back then was Big Easy.
That checks out.
Bigez.
I get it. Is that tattooed on your person's
No,
smell?
I have the license plate though.
On which car?
It was on my old 3 Series BMW when I lived in Rhode Island, but
You had a BMW.
yeah, like
That doesn't fit at
1981.
When did you get the El Camino?
The El Camino is
That
where
was
you
like
need
2
to have
years
Big
ago.
Easy.
No, that one is Max South.
Why don't we do this in the back of the El Camino?
We're going to.
Oh,
Yeah,
that would
thanks.
be
Okay.
sweet.
We're gonna. We've got.
Can
some
I come
good-
back?
Yeah.
For
yeah.
the
Oh,
El
yeah.
Camino?
We're gonna do like a.
Is it going to be driving down the road?
I wouldn't want to do it stationary.
No, we're gonna do it like comedians in cars. Get a coffee.
yeah.
Except like not go to get coffee. Just go bar hopping maybe.
Yeah, I did that this past weekend. We just had too many people all rode in the back of pickup trucks because it's legal in South Carolina.
We're also gonna buy a Tabby. We're gonna buy a
you
Tabby.
can ride in the back of a pickup truck with no seatbelt in South Carolina.
That's
It's
insane.
legal.
Over the age of 18.
But not
Over the age of
drinking.
18.
But not drinking.
But it doesn't say anything about that in the
There's
law.
gray area.
Well, I can't be actively drinking because that's illegal. I don't know. In the back of the truck, the driver couldn't
you just
have
ruined
it.
my whole idea because we were gonna do a podcast on the Tabby golf cart rolling down downtown Greenville, but we can't have open containers.
Where did you get a golf cart?
We're going to.
You're going
We
to.
haven't yet. So if anybody out there knows of somebody where we
gas
can have a golf
powered.
cart.
The only thing,
Yeah, gas powered. Got it. We're gonna make it street legal. It's gonna be part of our marketing. Go to the market.
You interested in branding in El Camino? $2,000 sponsorship.
Here we go.
Let's look at it. Is
Does
it
the
really
air
cool?
conditioning
could,
work?
Could we make it really cool?
Air conditioning.
Could we make it like look really cool?
Have you ridden around in a car in South Carolina in July and August without air conditioning?
Yeah.
I won't do it.
Yeah, you
My windows are down. It feels great.
And I bet you lose 10 pounds every time you drive around.
Well, I need to.
Wait, the
That's
El
a different
Camino doesn't have
discussion.
air conditioner?
No.
Yeah, no, that's a no go.
What do you mean it's a no-go?
It's a no-go.
For the podcast.
No, it will be. You can
All this
put
equipment
AC.
would be ruined.
I don't even know. I would be ruined.
Yeah.
No, when it's good for you, it's healthy.
I do go to the steam room every morning. So,
Yeah, you just could skip that.
yeah.
So you moved
Does
here.
your truck have AC?
My dad's truck.
Give
That
a
pink F-150?
That's unbelievably bold. Okay.
What do you mean? It's pink.
It's fuchsia.
It's faded red. I'm
Listen.
sorry.
When you moved to Greenville, did you have these curly bangs that you have now, or
No,
did you,
so believe it or
you
not,
grew those when you got
I used
here?
to have long hair, like past my shoulder,
Really?
and it was straight. It
On
was
purpose?
Straight. No. Like that's
It
just
grew
how it
straight.
grew. Yep. And so then I started like cutting my hair,
That's really embarrassing.
and then had my hair shorter, like yours, shorter on the sides,
Like super handsome.
Yeah, like J. Crew
Like-
model.
oh, that's rude. Because you're backhanded. That you don't mean that as a compliment.
No, I mean it was.
No, but
Yeah,
I know you well enough to know you've insulted me that way before.
yeah. LL Bean.
This is going nowhere.
give a shout out as we refill to this. Tell me, this is a really good whiskey.
It's great. Yeah, few whiskey. Drank it in Boston a couple times, and we're doing a plug here.
Yeah, we'll plug
Yeah,
them.
we always try to get sponsorships.
Oh, absolutely.
We're not
sponsorships.
sponsoring them, but I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
I used to drink it at a restaurant in Boston called Chickadee, and I don't know if this is the rye. It's not the rye, but it still good.
I appreciate a fellow bourbon drinker because I've had a lot of bourbons.
Yeah, you never had this one,
Never had this one, so I always appreciate when somebody brings something that I
cousin. Have
never
you had this one before?
I have not.
Well,
That's-
enjoy.
Yeah, that's great. Few.
Few and far between.
I was just gonna say that.
Yep, they'll steal my thunder.
It is a good whiskey. It's good old fashioned.
Yeah,
Delicious.
we'll top off.
I like the big cube.
That's a staple. Gotcha.
I like how you keep them too in like a gallon Ziploc, and you don't have to try to crack that
That was Jordan.
janky-
That was my wife's idea.
that janky tray. Sometimes they just don't
She's
come
smart
out.
like that. She's
Shout out to wives.
Shout out to the wives. They keep the operation running. Like they fill in all the gaps that we just suck at filling in.
But I would say, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of there are a lot of gaps. There are a lot of gaps, right? Like I don't know how it is in your house, but in my house, I create more gaps than not.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
my wife is in the background, like, holy shit,
Well,
this
even-
idiot again.
Like with families, like you guys have a couple kids,
3 kids.
3 kids.
Yeah.
It's like it's thank God for her because they would be dead.
They
How
would
many
be.
Subarus? Just
You're great
two?
dad.
Just the one Subaru.
great dad.
Just the one
3 kids,
Subaru.
2 Subarus.
But without a mom, it's
I think
tough.
your phone's ringing. Just the one Subaru. It's white though. It's beautiful.
Did you wait till you moved to South Carolina to get your Subaru? Because that is not a Boston car.
It is it's a Massachusetts New Hampshire border car.
Definitely
Vermont
New
car.
Hampshire, Vermont.
So this what are some of the big, and I've been traveling a lot for the last couple of weeks in sort of the New England area, from San Francisco to West Palm Beach to New York. I've been doing it. What are some of the biggest differences you noticed moving? In Greenville, Greenville is actually kind of a happy medium, I think.
Right.
Where it's kind of become it's sort of lulled into this southern charm, but still is like like somewhat progressive in a
Sure.
way and open-minded. And without getting too political, what are some of the biggest differences you see like Boston versus the Southeast?
Pace.
Yeah.
Right.
People
Like, I
drive
think
slower, walk slower,
drive slower, walk slower,
talk slower.
Traffic.
traffic. They think slower. Cuzzin.
But wait, I'm from up there.
Yeah, but you've adopted
Oh,
the mental ways.
Let's see, you were born here,
Born in Greenville.
but you have a slight, with some words I've noticed, you have a slight little Boston accent that comes
really,
out.
I don't know if that's
Out?
offensive.
You have out? Like you say out like a New Englander?
Listen, I think that's a
Where'd
huge
you get your
compliment.
coffee
I'm
up
going to
there?
insert a clip because I think I recorded it.
What was your question?
where'd you get your coffee up there?
Depends on the season. Sometimes Dunks, sometimes Starbucks,
What's Dunk's full name?
Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay, I just want. I was.
What's that?
checking.
What's that soup that they eat up there with like?
Chowder.
Okay, all right, maybe not.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not.
You don't like clam chowder?
Nobody says chowder.
You don't.
they
you
do
don't.
a lot.
You don't.
And
I'm
they
not
also
saying you
say
have a New England
wicked.
accent, but I caught one thing that like was like, oh, maybe a little.
He took offense fast.
He
When
did.
they're
Yeah,
like, hey,
but chowder is chowder, not chowder.
Chowder.
no, it's not a hard like duh. But if
people-
somebody I say chowder, clam chowder.
People that say
I mean,
Pock.
yeah. It's.
I mean,
you don't
it's-
sound like Goodwill Hunting.
It's
I mean,
a. I would be glad to sound like a
that's the best one. That's one of my favorite movies.
It's
ever.
great. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
Right. It's a great movie. I've heard of MIT. I didn't go to MIT, but I've
Were
heard.
you a janitor there at MIT? by
I'm not
chance?
sure I'm qualified to be a janitor at MIT.
You still got to be a mathematician to.
Exactly.
Boston's a lot of fun. It's a fun city. There's like some of everything, and that's. I mean, I enjoy Boston every time I go, but it's different. And then you can get out to like. There's a lot of country up there too. I mean, it used to be 20 minutes outside of. It's not like 45
Right.
because the traffic's insane. But there's a lot of country. I mean, you're an hour from Rhode Island, big country like Kingston, Warren.
You're 75 minutes from Connecticut. You're
Yeah.
hour-ish from Hyannis. You go north, you're an hour to Beverly. I mean, you've got all kinds of stuff right at your
I mean,
fingertips.
Keene. I mean, you can get like anywhere in 3 hours. You can be in, New York in 4. It's nuts.
If you fly to Nantucket, you can be there in 20 minutes. Wheels up to wheels down, Nantucket.
How do we like start to maneuver to get GSP some more gates? Like, how much money do we need to raise? How do we get?
So
how do we
did you
get
ever?
more?
Did
How
you
do we
ever
get
fly
more
to-
direct
We talked
flights?
about this last podcast. Have you ever flown out of Manchester Airport in Manchester, New Hampshire?
No, but a friend of mine, we met at Loon Mountain for a bachelor party 4 or 5 years ago. Great story. Hadn't skied in 10 years. Went to school in Knoxville, Tennessee, like I said, Gatlinburg is 35 or 40 miles east of Knoxville. On Thursdays, we'd go to Ober, O-B-E-R, Gatlinburg, which is the two-slope ski resort in Gatlinburg, in jeans and a Patagonia fleece because we were fratty.
Yeah.
We would ski in jeans. And
That's an old school fratty thing too.
old school. Yeah,
No wind pants.
No wind pants. No wind
dude,
pants.
jeans. My dad used to ski in jeans.
Yeah. Your dad and I should be friends.
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
Anyway, drive
that's
back to Knoxville.
super cool.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't even know what we were just talking about.
Loon Mountain.
Loon Mountain. Yeah, thank you. You distracted me. So I'm going up the lift at Loon Mountain.
You're welcome.
Were you wearing jeans at Loon Mountain? Or?
I was not.
Okay.
I was told maybe 3 months before this trip that, hey, this is a real ski slope. You should buy
Snow
a
pants.
bib.
Yeah.
And went to a spot, got a bib, cruising up the lift. The gate opens. Is it the gate?
Yeah.
Or whatever the little.
Do I look like I ski?
I'm looking at you because you're more attractive.
I would sit in the lodge.
Right, exactly.
I'm
Anyway,
the lodge rat.
the bar opens or whatever, which is more fitting for this conversation. Regardless, it opens. I try to get off the lift.
Yard sale.
I fall off the lift.
Yes.
Right? My skis cross. I'm like this mangled pretzel at the lift, and they stop. Right? It doesn't like they stop the lift, and there's probably 50 people behind me. Like, is this guy serious? Everybody in New Hampshire can ski all day long, and I'm like, I haven't skied in 10 years. Anyway, it was a blast. Loved it.
Did you make it back down the mountain?
I made it back down the mountain, and then decided, you know what?
It was probably best you didn't do it again.
Nope. I was like, I'm not going to waste anybody's time. I went to the bar with another guy who was like, I hate skiing. I was like, perfect. I hate skiing too. And then that was at 9 o'clock in the morning. And we met everybody else at 4 or 5 in the afternoon.
You just reminded me of a traumatizing child vacation that I'm going to tell you about.
I want to hear it.
So ski resort up in West Virginia.
Snowshoe.
The Greenbrier.
Heard of it.
Oh, really?
Presidential hideout.
Yeah, it's a tourist attraction now. It's a really cool place. We used to do, family trips there sometimes, and
Oh, that's swanky.
70, all my cousins, this huge deal. So we're skiing, right? Now I'm 12. I've never skied before, but my dad and all of his brothers and all of their kids, all my dad and his brothers grew up like excellent skiers.
Right. Where'd they grow up?
Michigan, but we're out in Montana and Colorado and just skied a lot. Like my Uncle Byron is like, should be a pro skier. So we're at this place and it's a bunny hill. They've got 3 stops it's one hill and they've got 3 stops on the lift. And so I'm with my cousin who's 3 years older than me. He's a great skier. And I'm like, hey man, I've never skied before. He's like, you'll be fine. Just, I'm 12. My cousin's 15. So I'm like, okay.
And you're skiing, not snowboarding, right?
Yeah, skiing.
Yeah,
so I'm like, I'm cool. I'm gonna fake it till I make it. I'm in here. I'm an athlete.
Were you a fit child?
Fit child. Yeah.
What sport did you play?
Football, basketball, baseball,
What position
soccer,
in football?
wide receiver. Actually, I was
Fit child.
Yeah, I was thin, tall,
Lineman,
fast.
offensive line.
Yeah.
What position in basketball?
Center because I was in a private school for that period of time.
Must be nice.
Wasn't tall. I was
Did
tall.
you go to private school?
I hated it.
I did.
You went to private school too?
I went to private Catholic school.
There you go.
Until
that's a
fourth-
whole other story.
Is there another
grade.
podcast for that kind of thing?
We're gonna dive into it.
No, I should have just got evicted from that school.
No comment.
So I get to the first. So I tell my cousin,
I'm offended. I'm not Catholic, and I'm offended.
I'm going to plow through the story. I get to the first stop, and I'm like, I should get off. He's like,
Are you on a lift? You're on that thing. You hold the rope and it tows you.
we're on a seat lift.
You're sitting.
Oh,
You're
okay.
sitting. You're not getting
We're in a
dragged.
chair lift. So
Them drag things are
I
horrible.
was like, hey man, we got fitted for skis. I need to go over here. They've got some classes. I need to go to. No. You're good. Come on. All right.
you got left.
No, get on the lift. End up not getting off. Not my cousin, who I love to death, who's an asshole, takes me all the way to the top to the double black diamond. And it's like, dude, it's fine. You're fine. Just start going down. Keep your legs straight. Tuck the poles
Triangle.
underneath
Pizza
your
slice. Pizza
tuck
slice.
the-
Pizza
no.
slice.
Didn't teach me that. Tuck the poles underneath your arms and go straight down. Bend your knees. Tuck your poles. Go straight down. You'll be fine.
He was right on the form.
Pizza
So
slice.
I am fortunately a coordinated person and I was keeping up, and I'm going 50 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Down this freaking mountain. And there's this kid that's 100 yards away that's standing in the middle of the slope.
Still.
And his dad and grandfather are skiing properly around him, teaching him how to ski. And I'm going 50 miles an hour straight for him with my poles tucked, going, get out of the way, get out of the way. And I just plowed this kid, yard sale, wreckage everywhere. He's like broken ribs. Like we're like, it's a bad accident. Ski patrol like takes us down.
Right.
We're in the, they're ripping my tag off. They're so mad. Long story short, it was like my uncle's neighbor in Greensboro, North Carolina. And so like it all got worked out, but it was traumatizing. I've been skiing like twice since.
I like the idea of skiing.
I've been skiing once in my whole life, and I'm from New Hampshire.
I like the idea of skiing, right? I like being in the snow, being around a fire, having a beer.
I like tubing, where you sit on a tube and you go down a course and then you stand up.
Outside of riding a bicycle, I'm not really interested in sports that require a helmet at this age. I'm 38.
I had bicycles too. I got a pedal.
Oh.
I need motors.
Right.
But you've got a scooter you ride a lot.
A lot. Yeah.
That's embarrassing. Tell us about that.
It's not embarrassing. Got a whole club. Look us up on Instagram. The Wombats MPC.
Oh my God. Should we end this early? I'm not sure.
Are you embarrassed?
I'm not embarrassed. Are you?
I thought you talked about getting one.
I talked about getting one. I looked into it.
They're terrific.
It would ruin my street cred.
Wait, what street cred?
Stop
You
it.
drive a
Stop it
Subaru
right
and a
now.
pink truck.
I was going to say, I mean, and I don't mean this in any negative way. You would be the kind of guy
I
that
hate
would
when
buy.
people start
You would buy a BMW motorcycle.
with a sidecar.
Yeah, that's you.
Yeah.
That's okay though.
But you would ride in the sidecar.
And he's going to wear those
100%.
little
With
quarter
the goggles.
leather gloves where the...
Hey, I'm not going to say names, but I work with a guy whose dad wears the fingerless gloves
That's awesome.
at home.
Is he a serial killer?
I'm like 60% sure he's not. But he
Does
wears
he have a weird name or a regular person name?
Saying there's a chance.
his first name is Ben. I'm not going to say his last name.
No, not the dad, the person you work with.
Does he have a regular name?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a regular name.
Okay. Well, there's one person you work with that doesn't have a regular name. It's kind of a different name.
You know, it's interesting. Cousin knows all about me.
Well, I love the firm. I go down to your firm sometimes and just have a happy hour.
When we got your certificate of occupancy, you came down.
Yeah,
to
I
celebrate.
came down. We
Do you have
had
a
some
bar?
beers.
Do you have a bar at the?
I brought the bar.
We do not have a
Yeah.
bar.
They got
Cousin's-
a kitchen with drinks, though.
Cousin's good at showing up with a bar.
We
Well,
don't have a bar.
We got
but we
the
have
CO. We were so pumped.
We have bottled water.
They called me,
And
and I
milk.
was like, I just so happened to have a case of beer in the car. I'm coming to the office. And somehow, whenever
was a big deal.
Whenever I go to your office, it was a huge deal.
Huge deal.
Whenever I go to y'all's office, I always get a spot right there in front of the old Army Navy store.
Because you deserve it.
And then just run up, case of beer, slamming beers. We were just pumped. It was such a huge day.
And it was a long time coming, too.
Yeah.
Because you guys had been patient. And
Year and a half of bullshit.
that's honest.
So your day, I mean, so it took 2 years to get that project started.
We had already signed the lease when you came on.
Yeah, I
the
started in
project.
March of 21. Yeah, I think you guys signed the lease in
December of 20.
Yeah.
Which was right. Yeah. Because we had already signed the Anderson lease and we signed the
COVID was
Clemson lease.
it was in the thick of COVID.
Yeah. And it was just, it was a great deal. You know, high hopes for the project. We still got high hopes. There's still a long way to go for the project. There's a lot still to be developed. I would say that the property's 50% occupied. I mean, if you take the apartments out, right, it's 50% commercially occupied. Right. I think the apartments are 97% leased, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think there's still so much to happen out there that it'll change 3 more times, I think, with the opening of the courtyard and more parking and the Westervelt and the Jenny and all these other buildings. I mean, it's a 1 million square foot total, right, including residential.
It's a monster. It's a complicated.
It's huge. So it's the phases. You know, you can never get open in the correct phase. So it's been a big learning process for us of, you know, where do you want to come in to a project? Like, you don't want to be first, but you don't want to be last. But there's also something to be said about the middle and you know, a big learning curve. And I think we'll take that moving forward to our next mill projects or, our next development. Yeah.
What's interesting about the Pioneer, right? We
were the fourth people to sign on to that project.
Yeah, and what's interesting about having a brewery that's the Pioneer kind of retail tenant, the driver, the people mover, is you get those good deals, right? And I think that's an important point is you get that early entry competitive rent.
Because you start courting people immediately.
Right, but I think at some point you've got to, when you get done with the entitlements and understand your ability to really bring people there, who do you want as your first tenant, right? And at Judson, the climbing gym was kind of the catalyst to bringing people to 29611, where outside of textile manufacturing, there wasn't a lot going on. And Cuzzin, I don't know if you feel the same way, but the Blockhaven has been a huge catalyst for the success of Judson.
There's a lot of people there.
There's a lot of people, and they're coming in from Charlotte. They're coming in from Brevard, Ashland.
Yeah, when they do their big competitions, the Foundry bringing in national and regional acts, it's just nuts.
And Subaru is a sponsor, and that's their kind of demographic, obviously. And they.
That's why you bought the Subaru.
That's why I bought the Subaru, because
you got to fit in at Judson.
I love a deal.
And
they're great cars.
I don't rock climb, but I love station wagons. I've always driven a station wagon, actually. My first car was a 94 Volvo station wagon, 940.
Oh, yeah.
Two-wheel drive.
So can we use that for the tour, the podcast?
No, he's got that big F-150 with the 8-foot bed. We can definitely use that to sit in the back of that.
You know what I was thinking about the other day is I went to QT the other day.
Which one?
We're not going to jump all the way over to this, but
Which one?
Gas station food. We need to come back to that and do that in the El Camino.
Oh, yeah.
A gas station food tour.
We're going to do a whole podcast on gas station food.
Is there a way to solidify myself as like a third host here, or does that take a... How do you get that?
You can just
status?
be a continuous.
How much money do you have?
We can only
I
fit
have $12.
Perfect. You're in. Yeah. That's the fee. That is the exact fee.
That's how that works.
I have $12.
All right. Well, so I got
Just leave it at the bar.
a next question, right? For you.
Hit me.
You just joined the Brewers Guild.
I did.
So, what's next for Lee Shain and the Brewers Guild?
Yeah, so I think my goal personally with the Brewers Guild is to really understand who's out there in a development phase of their brewery, right? And by that I mean who is brewing beer in their garage or their basement, who wants to do a brick and mortar, whether it's a Magnetic South or another brewery, but who doesn't have that skill set to really take them from kind of a home brew to brick and mortar, and understanding that challenge, understanding the capital constraints, and trying to figure out.
I don't even know if it's a homebrew. I mean, we've done it twice. We're on our third time.
But what's interesting is
the deeper we get in, the more need we have for someone with your skill set.
Yeah.
Say, I have to manage what I have going on.
Yeah.
I can't micromanage what is going on.
So what's interesting about that is our ability to really understand someone's need to go from a basement or garage, basement or garage brewing homebrew setup to first brick and mortar, or someone like yourself where you've got 3 locations or pending a third. How do you get them to focus on the brewery and let us take that burden off of their shoulders to really shepherd them through a lease signing, or even a site selection through a signed lease, a permit, and a eventual brewery? I mean, that's our goal, right? We want to be the go-to in South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia of the subject matter experts, where we can help people guide them through the whole process. And you've got brewers who, you're an anomaly, Cuzzin. You've got the knowledge around the lease, the legal, the financial, and you're handy, right? You understand the trades. A lot of people don't. A lot of people understand brewing beer. what I admire about that is they keep the main thing. That's where we come in, right? If you don't understand the real estate side, we have all of these subject matter experts that can help you be guided through.
It's sort of like there's a, I mean, you just reminded me of a guy that I need to reach out to. But there's, as you have as you're growing a company, and I agree, you are an anomaly because you can kind of do all of it, which is why you'll continue to be successful.
I can't do all of it, but I have a great team.
So I was going to finish there with you have a team with you. You are super individually handy. You also have 3 other really great partners. But what's interesting about your firm is you're kind of the plug and play, like a fractional C-suite service.
Right.
The guy that I was mentioning, they've got a company that you need a CFO. Like you've got a CTO, a CEO, and a CMO, but you need a CFO.
Right.
And you don't have $300,000 a year to hire somebody. We have a fractional service of somebody that's really professional that does CFO services for like 10 different companies.
Right.
Fractional services. Kind of similar, but you guys can come in and just fill all the gaps in the business.
We fill the gaps in the business, and our ability to be competitive with fees is robust, and we understand A, what it would cost to hire a full-time employee, and B, with us, to the third-party service world, if you need us for 9 months, you can turn that faucet off at the end of 9 months. With a full-time employee, you're not going to hire somebody.
You're breaking somebody's family up.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So our ability to say, hey, bring us on for 9 months, we contract for 9 months, we understand that the relationship is financially, there's an obligation for 9 months, but after that, it's over. We can continue to work together. If there's a 6-month gap, and then again, you need us again for 9 months, sure, that's fine. Most people, full-time employees who are working directly for Magnetic South probably aren't financially flexible enough to have that happen. So that's where we kind of fill that gap.
Were we your first brewery that you personally, Lee Shain, have done?
So I worked with the Boston Beer Company in Boston.
That's super cool.
Yep. We did.
You get to meet any of those guys?
I met Jim Cook one time.
Oh yeah, sweet.
On the elevator going up to up to his office.
Were you in his office?
I wasn't in his private office. I was in the elevator. He was going up.
You were in his office building.
I was in his office building, but the developer I work for owned the building. They were expanding from 40,000 to 70,000 square feet, and we built a tap room in their office of like 70 taps and like 8,000 square feet. So it was a monster.
So it was a brewery in the building, pretty much.
It was a brewery in the building. Super cool build out. They have marketing, they have logistics, they have accounting. As I was leaving Boston, they had in the end of 20,
merger.
They just bought or merged with Dogfish Head. So they had a lot of Dogfish Head employees trying to onboard. They had a lot of the what do you call them? The 60, 90, 120 minute IPAs starting to show up in their kind of their bar area, and you start drinking 120.
Was that the Friday spot? Just like, hey, honey, I'm not coming home. Just hanging out in the office.
I would never say that out loud.
I gotta work.
Yeah,
I'm working late.
I'm gonna be working till 9 o'clock on a Friday. But yeah, so your brewery was so we got Magnetic, the third or fourth that I've done, including the Boston Beer headquarters. But every time you do it, it's a learning experience based on, with your brewery, it's the second floor. I mean, it's the first floor on the south side of the project, but second floor on the, first floor on the north side, second floor on the south. You've got stuff going on underneath you.
It's that blew my mind. When you were under construction, there was a pipe that I looked through and I was like, wait, what's below you?
Nothing. I mean, a floor.
Yeah.
A whole space. 8,000 square feet.
Yeah, no, a whole other thing. Because you pull in and you're on ground level.
When we went out there the first time, when you pulled into that parking lot 3 years ago, it was 10 foot lower.
So you have to go
when
all
you
the way
pulled up
behind.
to our space, that was the loading dock for the mill. Trucks would back up flat to that.
So is there any business front on the backside of like seed and feed, and
Yeah, you've got
I've never driven back there.
on 6th Avenue on the south side of the
I
project.
need like a full property tour from you. I think.
Let's go. We can have lunch. The best Cuban in Greenville is at Magnetic South.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's the bowl with all the vegetables? The vegetable bowl.
Yep, the vegetable bowl.
Super creative.
But it's good.
Yes, it is good, and you get all the different
200
sauces.
yards from here, so I go to lunch there pretty often.
Yeah, absolutely. And the beer's good, obviously. So you've got 6th Avenue running across the south side of the project. You've got High Spirits Hospitality's got their smokestack and operation space that feeds the south side 6th Avenue, and it runs into, is it Dunbar? Around the corner from St. Francis. So there's a lot going on the south side of the project. Plus, you've got all the residential traffic that leaves on 6, and there's a dog park back there. So
I'm gonna kick it a different direction. Lee Shain, project developer.
I also love how you're not just Lee. You will always be Lee Shain.
let me just make a 30-second comment about that.
Sure.
I have been Lee Shain for, I would say, as long as I can remember middle school.
Never just Lee.
Never just Lee. People have always called me Lee Shain. Parents, when I'm in trouble. Friends.
Parents, the trouble thing is a normal. That's
Is your first name just Lee? Like Lee?
Lee.
That's
just strong 3
I'm
letters.
just going to call you just
your middle name?
Hey, Lee, what's up? That just sounds weird.
It sounds weird, right?
It's like, oh, Lee Shain. Man, what's going on? I mean,
Yeah.
Shit.
I know. I like
the
that.
social
I like
club.
that. And
That's
I
the
think
club right there.
when I call you Adam, it feels
Yeah, I've never called you Adam.
it feels dirty.
Yeah.
I always I have to be conscious because I'm like, hey, do you know Cuzzin? I mean, do you know Adam Willier? If I'm talking to people,
Yeah, but that no one knows me that.
When I
They all
introduced
know
you
me
to
by
that
cousin.
brewery in Indian Land, the guy was like, "What's his name?" in Greenville, I was like, "It's Adam. Adam is his
Well,
name."
and when people call me and they call me Adam, like I'm like, oh, I met him. Must have been business, but even my business cards say cousin. So like, it's got to be a strict set of business
Right.
of why they don't know me as cousin.
People have always called me Lee Shain.
I
Always.
guess so. The direction I was going with Lee Shain is, who are you out? Your father,
Yeah, got
Husband.
3 kids. Great husband.
great husband. What are your hobbies? Like if you're at home, you have a Saturday off. Are you gardening? Are you painting it green?
What's funny about
Are you
that?
drinking beer? Like what are you doing? Like,
Yeah,
what's
so
your?
I would say let cousin get over himself real quick.
you garden.
I'm definitely not gardening, but
Lee Shain out there with his little trowel.
my
and-
trowel.
No, I'm growing tomatoes, bro. I'm growing tomatoes and peppers. That's me.
Are you?
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
I
I love to tinker with bicycles. Right?
pedal
got-
bikes or motorbikes?
No, pedal bikes.
Pedal bikes.
Oh.
Like your kids, or like you're building bikes.
No, I don't want to mislead. I have a fixed gear bicycle that I picked up in Belmont, which is right outside of Boston, and I love fixed gears, single speeds, because I can take them apart.
Free hub, or is it a real fixed gear?
Oh, it's a real fixed gear. You can't coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what that means.
I come from a family of cyclists.
Really,
Dude,
Wow.
I would kill myself on one of those bikes.
Right. So the older I get, the
You
more
can't just sit. You have to pedal.
you have to pedal. So the
A
more
lot of people put free hubs on them, so
Right.
you can not pedal
And let
then-
it spin.
Yeah,
you can coast. So the bike I'm talking about it's
It gives me anxiety just thinking about it.
it does. So you can't coast. The older I get, the more and more I realize.
Are you riding it? The fixed gear?
on a regular basis?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like just balls of steel, just out there fixed gear riding. in
It's
green.
normally on the Swamp Rabbit, right? Like I don't do it on the road or anything. A funny story: the first time I rode
That
the
is
fixed,
balls of steel, bro.
It is
Yeah.
like.
The
Have
fir-
you ever picked that back wheel up because you had to stop and you
Oh.
like pedal backwards and you're just locked?
you don't pick the back wheel up; you pick the front wheel up.
This guy knows what he's talking about, though.
Yeah. So the first time I rode that, I was going down Commonwealth Avenue in Back Bay in Boston, and I just
Not busy
got
there at all.
nobody's driving down that, especially around 5:30 in the afternoon. I'm clipped in, right? So clipped into a fixed gear bike.
What?
Yeah, but
You're wearing the shoes.
the shoes, right? I thought I was like
Tour de France,
Lance Armstrong
here you
Jr.,
come.
right?
Yeah, George
And,
Hincapie up
so
in here.
I'm cruising down.
Dude, you clip into a free gear.
Fixed gear, which is idiotic, right? It's worse than Cousin's mullet, right? It's terrible.
Whoa.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Can we keep going?
I'm stressed,
sorry.
dude. I'm
So
stressed out.
I stop at what'd you say?
Nothing.
So I stop at the corner of Dartmouth and Comm Ave, and I'm trying to get my feet out, right? You're twisting your ankles to get your feet out, and I can't do it. Red light. I'm not going to go through red light. I just fall.
Terrific.
And I decided I was going to turn around and go back to the bike shop, Back Bay Bicycles on the corner of Comm Ave and Mass Ave. And I'm like, take these fucking clip-in pedals off. Put the nets or whatever you call them. Or baskets. And
They don't call them baskets.
what do they call them?
I think just slide-ins.
Slide-ins, whatever. Either way, I was like, I can't do shoes. I'm like, these clip-ins are terrifying. Anyway, so my favorite thing to do is to tinker with these bikes because they're simple. They're one gear. You can take them apart. You can take gears off. You can take brakes off. Have a beer too.
Are you a Tour de France guy? You watch it?
You know what's interesting? Every year, my father-in-law and I watch the tour. Mm-hmm. Last year, they got a little cabin up in right outside of Cashers, and I'm watching the tour. I'm like, wow, this is great. This is awesome. I can't remember what stage, 2, 3, 4. My son is adamant about recording sporting events. So I get through it. I'm like, man, that was the greatest stage I've ever seen. It was 2 weeks old.
Oh. So it starts next week.
I know. I'm excited.
I am too. There's a big Netflix documentary that just came out.
I saw it.
It's terrific.
I appreciate the history and the legacy.
I love it.
Watched
When
it.
it's this is probably a cool segment, and I don't know how many people can agree, but I'm one of those people that steroids do not ruin non-contact sports. So like Lance Armstrong, U.S. Postal Service era of cycling, right, was insane. You're seeing these guys on a 21-day, 3-week bike race climb up mountains at amazing mile per hours.
Right.
And whatever. Same. Sammy Sosa, Mark McGuire era of baseball.
Can we pause right there for a second?
Runs.
Can we pause right there for a second? So I don't know anybody that wants to go to a Cubs game or a Cardinals game that wants to see singles and doubles. Right. And
I want to see him crushing bombers over.
I want to see Mark
McGuire
crush it over. What's the arch? Right. And Sammy Sosa.
I think pro sports are a free for all. I think college sports
non-contact. So you can't do it in football.
Not in
can't do it in football.
100% agree, but I think
hockey,
there should be
hockey. Them boys beasts. Anyways, they don't even care. Like,
but I mean, you got Ovechkin with no teeth, right? No steroids. There's still an issue with the dental work, but
and no boxing, but like baseball.
But I think that I'm gonna
cycling.
You should open it up to everybody.
I'm gonna throw in the logic here.
You're only hurting your own body. What
the health of the players, though? That's as a franchise. That's what you're thinking about. If you're thinking of it from 30,000 foot from the business standpoint,
right?
Of this is $100 billion industry.
Oh yeah.
These guys are wrecking their bodies. So do I want Tim? Do I want Tim Tebow times 3 years, or do I want him or whoever? Whatever. That's a bad analogy. Do I want Mark McGuire for 5 years? And then lots of health problems, or do I want him for 25 years?
I mean, Lance won the tour, what? 10 times?
I was going to say 12.
So 10 years, maybe 12 years. He's been stripped of that, but it doesn't matter. So he is 12 years, and he probably, when he came back to race it again.
And he was not a big guy.
No,
he was just like a normal.
And when he came back to do it again, you could tell steroid free. He couldn't keep up like he used to be able to.
Have you ever rode a street bike with clip-ins?
Oh yeah. So I used to ride. I used to ride a mountain bike.
That's crazy.
DC, I would ride a mountain bike with clip-ins.
So I had like a road bike when I was in the Army. It was fitness. Clip-in. It terrified me the whole time, and I got hit by a car because of my. Sometimes your anxiety or fear against something is the reason you crash.
I used to love the clip-ins because you could jump and pick the whole bike up with you. The scary thing for me was riding the bike path in DC, and there's a whole line of parked cars.
Right.
Someone opened. I've ran in the back of a taxi cab. I've been hit by an open door.
I mean, these are all 25 reasons why women live longer than men.
I mean, women ride
don't
bike in the city too.
They don't do fixed gears, clipped in.
My sister rides
they
a
can't.
fixed
They
gear.
can't.
I would
My
disagree.
sister,
It depends
my
on the
sister rides
city.
a fixed
And
gear in New Orleans.
My whole argument is
She's
that,
got a brake though.
Yeah,
She has a brake.
But
on
my
hers.
whole argument is
I had a
that they're
front
better
brake.
at it.
I had
and
a
they're
front
more
brake.
agile.
Well, there's no doubt about it that women are better than men.
Careful, more careful.
Yeah,
I'm
the
living
Smarter
life
/
fearless.
they live longer.
Yeah.
So I'm going to answer your question again. In my free time, I tinker with bikes.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say,
What's your bike? What
Well, no,
brand
what
is your
else?
fixed
I
gears?
have a specialized. It's
Oh, yeah,
a Langster.
specialized. Yeah.
They don't make Langsters anymore, and I
Do you watch the Helidrome stuff too?
sometimes
That is.
it's crazy, right?
I mean, where they're on that big bank.
yeah, and they're doing the.
Oh yeah. Have you
it's
watched
not-
the Helidrome where they follow the motorbike?
No, never watched that.
So it's another European. There's a little 50cc moped, and they follow the guy, and he paces them, and they're not allowed to pass their own.
Right.
But there's 4 of them out there, and they it's crazy. Look it
Yeah.
up on YouTube. It is nuts. Like
I love stuff like so. I love tinkering with bikes because I love the fixed gear and the single gear because I can take them apart and put them back together. Outside of that, my 9-year-old's into basketball. We were in Boston for 15 years. We love the Celtics. So he's all about the Celtics, the playoffs.
Is he like in his school league or little league?
He's in a YMCA league. He's in
So
a
he's
church.
playing. He's watching. He's
He loves
obsessed.
it. He wants.
Playing on his PlayStation.
Yeah,
playing on
he's got an Xbox. He's all about
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
right?
knows
Jason
all the
Tatum
players, all that.
knows the players, knows their statistics, knows who they're getting traded to, knows their agents. This kid is like way smarter than me. Got that from his mother.
But he's doing what a 9-year-old should be doing.
He loves it. He loves it.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
That's what a 9-year-old should be doing.
like I want him to be like Stump the Schwab from ESPN 30 years ago, right? Like he goes to Bristol and like adds a lot of value there, right? He loves basketball. My 8-year-old is a dancer. She loves to dance, ballet, the whole thing. And the 4-year-old, Oliver, same thing. Loves basketball.
So 9, 8,
4.
4.
Yeah. And my wife is rock solid, takes care of him while I'm at work, does the thing. And
That's awesome, man.
yeah, it's good.
Your wife work or no? She's just stay at home mom.
She's stay-at-home mom for
Yeah.
now. She was in
3 kids, that age group. You kind
yeah,
of
so
bounce around between sports.
we're a year away from Oliver being in kindergarten at a public school. My wife is a epidemiologist. She worked in Boston in neurology at Children's Hospital in Boston for 13 or 14 years. So wicked smart.
Wicked.
Hey, like them apples.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah,
you
I got
wicked
it.
smack.
Exactly.
Parking that car over there.
That's really embarrassing. Stop saying that, cuz. But super smart.
Our wives should meet. Our wives would be
Yeah,
friends.
we were talking earlier. Yeah, they would be friends. They can nerd out.
Yeah.
So she's been a stay-at-home mom for 3 or 4 years, and what's interesting about her is she way smarter than I am.
Yeah. I resonate with that.
Yeah, and has been selfless enough to let me put my career at the forefront, which is, I mean, I don't know of a more selfless act. So she's amazing, right? Like I wouldn't be here doing what I do without her. And she's a great mom, and
She's a good. I've met her.
Yeah,
twice,
you've met-
I think.
yeah, we
She
came to the brewery.
Judson, and
We
we had
actually-
that jump party.
Yeah, we had a jump party at Judson for maybe my daughter, and we had like bouncy houses in the smokestack. And at the end of it, Catherine was like, "I need to pee." I'm like, "I know Cuzzin.
Yeah,
Let's go."
Judson's right up there.
Cuzzin hosed me for $60 on his pinball machines.
Whoa.
He's gonna pay. He's gonna pay you today.
I'll pay you today.
Yeah,
You want it back?
Well, Lee Shain did. We are out of time, out of batteries, out of things are dying over here.
I mean, we could probably do 7 hours of this.
Let's do more.
You're just easy to talk to.
Listen,
So we're gonna keep it recurring. That's what we're gonna do.
I would love to do
Yeah, because
this.
we'd love to know
is
what's.
fun.
You're pretty in touch with what's happening in the area
I would love
with
to.
development,
Absolutely.
and all things on that forefront and knowing projects. And it'd be great to have you back.
Listen,
boys.
I'm glad to be
Shain.
here. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming out.